Today we look at the Moses protocol in a little detail so that you would be very clear on it. The Moses protocol, you could find that protocol in the book that is referred to as the Bible, and it is a story about manna and manna and quail. That's not just mentioned there, but it's the most popular story that we would know from storytelling in terms of the story of Moses, and that's why the protocol is called the Moses protocol. So you could read this story there, and you would be making reference to a number of statements in this, specifically statement on point 11 here, which speaks about at twilight you would eat meat, and in the morning you would be filled with bread, as re-emphasized again from the whoever is giving Moses the instruction, and that would be the Skylab people. Have learned that is the Skylab people. So this video is brought to you today compliments of the Skylab, and they would have of course emphasized this to Moses in verse 8 again. They would have told him you would see that he should eat meat in the evening, and the bread, all the bread they want in the morning. Okay, so this is not like a one-off statement per se. It is a consistent um, reminder within the context of this story that deals with glucose and amino acids, fatty acids. So quail here represents sources of glucose, amino acids, and fatty acids, meaning meat. Quail would be the meat, and meat generally would contain fatty acids and amino acids, whereas manna representing a source of bread, which is a source of glucose. So the Moses protocol in today's context would be when you are active. So let's break it down. When you are active, whatever your activity is during the day, when the sun is up, we have red light coming from the sun. So when you are active, you are a farmer, you are doing this, you are doing that, you are doing the other, whatever you are doing, when you are an active person. Now, during the day, there is a lot of us who are going into more sedation because of our sitting lifestyle. So we are not so active. So keep that in, bear that in your mind of the level and intensity of activity when we speak about when you are active. So when you are active, which is generally in the daytime, the glucose sources that you consume, whether it's refined, and we don't Moses is not admonishing the the use of refined type sugars, which is the liquid type fructose and the liquid type glucose, which we get from like sucrose and other liquids that we may be consuming. Of course, the bodybuilder would be passing very easily with the liquid type because he's basically taking the liquid type and pumping his muscles to consume the glucose molecules immediately. Now, one thing that I believe that needs to be emphasized and re-emphasized, your muscles, when it is active, do not need to call on insulin to get the absorption into the cells, into the muscle cells, of the glucose molecule. That is not well established, and we need to establish that point in mind. The molecules that is considered to be insulin, or the hormone insulin, comes about to go to mainly the organs like the liver to open these cells, to put our fat cells, to put in glucose molecules for that purpose of storage, etc. But when it comes to our muscles, they just sucks up glucose. So again, it's very critical to understand this context of our discovery based upon what Moses would have said to us. He's saying that you are active, so your muscles generally would be consuming glucose. So if you are using glucose during the day, you would generally be not having an what we call a high glucose level or a high glucose load flowing in your blood without anything to do. Imagine glucose just circulating around and around in your blood. It becomes the idler that goes around and sticks itself to our important proteins, and they become glycated, adding to the aging process. Now, in the day, you don't start in the day, because when you read the Exodus text, you would notice it always starts in the evening, and even the Bible starts its day in the evening. When you are in the evening, you are going into the new life, or the restorative period, the night time. You are going to sleep, or even when you are resting in any from any specific heightened stimulation, and this is where the three protocols would come in. Once you are restoring or resting, when you are calming down or you're in a state of calm, your consumption should be on focus for fatty acids and amino acids, sources of fatty acids and amino acids, and that should be done, if you are doing meats and those kind of stuff, you have to think about not the meat being the substance. The substance comes from the protein that comes out of the meat, the polypeptides that has to be digested, and it takes about 3 to 4 hours to digest at least some, not all, some from the stomach. It's an acidification soaking process that takes place in the stomach with meats and eggs and fish and all the great stuff that comes from it is polypeptides that are separated into smaller chains going into the duodenum and into the small intestine for the final release of amino acids. And of course, meats and eggs and stuff has what is considered to be the amino acids provision of at least the 8 or 9 essentials, and even more of the amino acids, up to the 20 amino acids that the body could use. Now, for those who do not want to eat meat, or those who have chosen to live that lifestyle, you do have now some good vegan protein powder, or even amino acids. I would not list it here because this is an eternal video. Amino acids supplement, that is, amino acid is different to protein powder, but you have some good amino acid supplement that you could use to get your source of amino acids and fatty acids, of course, omega-3, omega-6, and other type of fatty acids. But the point is, when you are restoring, you need to have these molecules available so that the cleansing process at the night and the detoxification and restoration process does not reach to a bind and say, I am about to restore, and this guy is not supplying the raw materials which we cannot make. This is why it's called essential amino acids and essential fatty acids, and of course essential vitamins and minerals. Now, why you want to separate the two, the glucose and the amino acid fatty acid ratios? Why you want to have your meat in the evening and your breads in the day? That is, simply put, a prospect on our operational efficiencies, how the body stores and utilizes glucose. If you put glucose in your body at night, you are telling the liver, hey, we are going to be active, but then you go and you lie down, even if it's 2-3 hours and it's well digested, because 2-3 hours glucose will be well digested. All these glucose molecules goes up to the liver and into the bloodstream. The liver is expecting you to get up and dance, but then you go to sleep. So the liver sees these molecules of glucose, high amount of molecules of glucose floating around, and it says, something is not right here. I need to get them out of the blood, because these molecules, when they keep on floating around, they become idle and they do a lot of damage to our capillaries or veins, or all the issues are coming from over floating glucose and fructose molecules. Well, fructose is the worst. However, when you do this, there is another issue that is happening with digestion when you tie carbohydrates with your meats and eggs and fish. So we are told to eat these things separately. Now, when you do the scientific research, you would clearly find the evidence that carbohydrates does not want to stay in an acidic stomach. It has no need to stay in an acidic stomach. There is one prospect for the carbohydrates to pass through the acidic stomach, which is sterilization of the bacteria and the food itself, to move it down into the duodenum and into the small intestine for digestion. So because carbohydrates does not want to stay there, it is having what is called a pull down effect. And if you tie it with your good eggs, your meat, your sources of amino acids and fatty acids, the pull down effect is also pulling down that amount of amino acids, like your meat and your eggs and stuff. So they don't get fully digested by pepsin, meaning they don't get cut up into the small parts. And so you don't have full digestion of your protein or your meat sources. And this causes challenges further down the cycle. We could talk about protein fermentation as one challenge, but you also realize you are lacking amino acids that would be able to be absorbed, because it's not broken down into amino acids. You still have polypeptides coming from the stomach. It should really be peptides that are ready to just be broken into amino acids. And so this is why we are cautioned not to bundle our protein sources with our glucose sources. This is one of the key reasons, but of course the most important reason, when you need to have amino acids and fatty acids, when your body is in a state of restoration. We see that clearly with the practice of people who are in the sports medical field. They do exercise, they do drink a lot of glucose when they are about to jump up and dance. That's for those who are on that pathway. Some persons use fatty acids, some persons use elementary salts or salts. They get stimulated, which is where the Trio protocol comes. They get stimulated, they do what they have to do with the body, and now the body goes into a state of rest when they are finished with their activities. So what they do, they rush for the amino acids through protein powders. And hence is the same principle at a lower scale for anybody who's alive. During the day, you are actually stimulating your body. Whatever you are doing, it's a stimulation. And the Trio protocol now tells you when you stimulate and you reach to the state of rest, your body starts demanding key essential amino acids, the 9 essential amino acids, at least the 9, the fatty acids, and they demand the vitamins and minerals to create the restoration of your restoration or the up enhancement of the experience. Now that part we sometimes miss, that the body sometimes enjoys an experience, so it needs to create what is called a chemical hormone to remember the experience. So it has to strengthen certain cells with a certain amount of amino acid that has to be combined to make the hormone that goes and stores the memory in the cells. We sometimes forget that, but that is a critical one to note. And so that needs amino acids also. So that is why in the night it is important to ensure you are getting your amino acids. Folks, if this has found you and you have found this, it means that you need to at least pay some attention to this. Again, do your own research. This is from the Skylab people, and I am Moses. Both the Skylab and Moses does not exist. However, the information here could be a reality if you consider it in its delightful way and its informative ways. Hope you are having a good one. Feel free to reach out to get some more information. The protocol for this is called the Trio protocol, based upon the Moses rule. And so you could buy a copy of the Trio protocol, where I would work with you towards trying to get you to restore that which is the temple.